Hi, welcome to Glitters of Life podcast. I'm your host Rohit Kokane, and we are back with another exciting episode. And today we are going to talk about a very interesting topic, which is about life in business. We have all heard that business is quite easy, but is it really so? We'll be able to figure it out. And to have that very conversation, we have got a very special guest with us today. She is Libby Langley, podcast host, award winning, no bullshit, straight talking business coach. She's also Amazon best-selling author and the queen of Fizzy business. So, Libby, welcome on the show. It is such a pleasure to host you.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
And it's a very unique topic. Like when we talk about like how to grow business, what to do into the business, but life in business is quite very different. We know like we are into the business, what all it takes to have that business running and to grow it as well. So it's a very unique topic in itself, and we are going to have that particular conversation. But when we are talking about to make that life in business easy, can we talk about the mental models, the habits, and the framework that is driving Libby into this business world?
Well, I think, kind of my real motivation behind it is the hustle culture, is
Yeah.
just so big, right? And so rife. And the trouble with that is that it leads to burnout and it can lead to, I don't know, people people questioning why they do what they do and the way that they feel about everything. And so I really support people in growing a business that they want to grow, right? They're genuinely interested
Yeah.
in it, and also one that makes them happy, because living life is the most important thing that we can possibly do in the whole world. And so I definitely prioritize that in the way that I work with my clients and help them get to the goal that they want, rather than just let's grow more, let's do more. To me, there needs to be more of a purpose to it than that.
Good to know that, because it's more about the kind of purpose, the kind of passion that we have to drive that business ahead. Because it gets interesting out there. We see that more and more people are now venturing into the business because they are tired of being into that particular 9 to 5
Mhm.
thing. They want to be their own boss. But the models are changing right now. The startup world is quite flourishing, and people want to try out new ideas so that they can move ahead. So when did your journey of business thing started? Because you might have even had that particular thought: should I be sticking to the job or should I be venturing into the business? So what was your story behind starting a business or venturing into the business?
I started my business 13 years ago this year, so I've been in business for a long
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
But the reason I started it was not dissimilar to what you say, actually. I mean, I was desperately unhappy in the job that I was doing. I had a great
Oh,
job, really good management job. But yeah, I was really unhappy, and I liked some of the skills that I'd picked up, and I knew that I could use them, training and coaching. So I knew that I could use them to probably to better effect, without the kind of constraints of what the business before the company I worked for wanted me to do, and be able to use them to help people in a more rounded way, and also to have the freedom to do whatever I wanted to when I wanted to. I mean, when you first start the business, you do your 14-hour days.
yeah, yeah.
Everybody does that, but there's still a sense of freedom in that, because you can do something during the day and then just fit it in and fit something else in the evening, if you know what I mean. So there's still a freedom in that, even though you have to put the graft in to start with. So I was motivated by misery to start with, but I don't regret it for a moment. Yeah, I don't regret it at all.
So what was that particular moment when you thought like, no, I'm living this particular job. I'll be starting my own business and I'll be not looking back after it? Because then we know like maybe it could be constraints, it could be misery, or the unfavorable situations as well. Like you never know where it is going to lead you. So did you had this thing in your mind that I'll be sticking to the business no matter what, if it works or not, or like I'll be again, if it doesn't work, I'll be getting back to 9 to 5 thing? Was there a kind of a thought into your mind, or how did you make it
No,
happen?
never. Never. No, I mean, I say I had a really good job, and I basically I just left. I didn't. There was no plan. I kind of, well, looking back now, I mean, I think I hit burnout, and it was just my mental health was not great, and so I kind of just walked out. You look back and just think, "Ooh," but that's what I did. And no, I started working for myself, and it was never, I've kind of never had a plan B. It's
Oh,
always just been, this is what I I work for myself now. I'm in control of my own destiny. However, over the years, my business has changed. I've offered things in different ways. My programs have been different. So that kind of has remained fluid. But there've been a couple of times when over the years when I've thought maybe it would be easier to have a job, but it's never been anything much more than a kind of passing thought.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can agree to that. Because it's very different. Even I was working for a shorter period of time with respect to the 9 to 5 thing, but then I realized that whatever expertise that I have got, whatever work I'm into, I can offer into my own business as well, and we can help it to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the kind of a thought, that is the kind of a vision we should be having, so
Mm-hmm.
that it gets easier from that particular point of time. But there were were there any kind of a non-business related experiences in your life that surprisingly shaped your approach towards the business growth? Because it usually happens, we know like how business works. There are processes, there are systems, there are frameworks, but were there any thing apart from that that really shaped that particular perspective?
I guess, I mean, I suppose in terms of the most surprising thing about starting a business, I mean, it's all great and fun and exciting and all of that, but I perhaps didn't know hard how hard work it would be and how many hours I would work, and some of the responsibility and decisions that sit on your shoulders. For example, I built up my business very quickly. We had a team of 5, so I employed people, and then I realized that I'd just created another job for myself.
Yeah.
I'd sort of replicated the world that I'd left, and I didn't want to do that. So I had to make the very difficult decision to make all my staff redundant and to give up my office. And that was really tough. And I don't think I knew, well, I didn't know. Of course I didn't know. Why would I know? But I guess I didn't expect it to be so tough at times. I mean, I made people redundant before, but normally you have like a human resources department or somebody who is there. But this was like, these are really nice people. They do a really good job, but I just want to change. And yeah, so that's been interesting. But I've got better at that over the years. I think that first time was like, can I really do this? Yeah, having and being responsible for everything is kind of hard. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, because then you become accountable for all the things that you do,
yeah,
and it's all about the decisions that you start taking once you're a kind of a business owner, and that really
yeah.
shapes the journey ahead. So, Libby, I feel that your journey has been quite interesting one. You have been coaching a lot of people out there. So there are quite outdated practices that people still are following in 2024 itself with respect to the business. So, what kind of practices do you encourage to break free from, and why is it so? Because the world is changing, the approach is changing towards the business. Again, we are getting impatient as well, because we are looking at someone else's success as well. They are growing at a
Hmm.
faster pace, but you especially work into making the thing easier with respect to the business. So what would be that particular approach?
The thing that I always say to my clients, and I talk about quite a lot on my own podcast, is remember the reason that you're doing what you're doing. You
Yeah.
know, it's not just about growth for growth's sake. It's how, what amount of money will actually make a difference to your life and why. And that might be, it might be 10,000, 10K a month, but it might be 2K a month. It might be 200. But knowing the reason why everything, why that number makes such an enormous difference, I think. And knowing what you're motivated by and knowing what you actually want to do. So many business coaches out there will just talk about growth and will just talk about scaling, but it's like, why? And what life do I want to live? And life in business, the reason that my podcast is called that, my book is called that,
Yeah.
is because it's very difficult to separate the two. We live this life in business, we embody it, so let's make it a good one, right? Let's make it fun,
Right.
let's enjoy
Right.
it.
Right. And you did talk about making that particular money, but it may happen that when a particular person is coming to you, they might be having some sort of business. Do you feel at times that this particular business has got no potential to grow ahead because it is quite
Mhm.
outdated, or like
Mhm.
does it really happen? And during those particular situations or the moments, how do you guide them? What is the usual process to let them know that this is not the way, you have to shift your focus towards a very different product or the industry? What does it look like?
Yeah, they're tough. There are tough conversations sometimes when you're a coach, for sure. And a couple of years ago, I worked with someone who was she was great. She was fantastic. She was motivated. She was willing to do the work. But we often start on a numbers exercise with clients, right? So I need to know how much they charge, what they charge for, how much time it takes, what the costs are, all that kind of stuff, right? And I said to her, I said, you're never going to make any money doing the way you're doing it. So you either increase your prices, scale it, get more people in a session, that kind of thing. But actually, what happened? We worked together for 3 months, and it was a really really interesting process because she ended up getting a job at the end of it. She had been a teacher to primary school kids when she left it because she didn't like it, and her business was offering a service into schools for young kids. So through our work, she got an opportunity to deliver her service within a particular school, and they ended up offering her a job, and she decided to take it. And what was so wonderful about that is that it was a really conscious decision. She'd worked out through our time together what mattered to her, what didn't, what she wanted to do, and the job was the right thing. And she said she wouldn't have been able to come to that decision without our work together. She would have been reacting, or like you said before, going back to work. But it
Yeah.
wasn't like that at all. So yeah, I mean, sometimes that's the outcome, but I talk about conscious business decisions all the time. And if it's a conscious decision, then that's really cool. And what matters to me is that people are happy and fulfilled. And if that's through running a business, amazing. But if that means they end up getting a job, fine, cool.
All right.
You know?
Can we stress more about that particular conscious decision makings? What does it really mean to you itself, and how do you guide on that particular path? Because again, business is quite demanding. You can't wait
Mhm.
for that right moment. You have to take those decisions. You have to move ahead, then see what kind of outcome you are getting. Again, rework your strategy onto that particular path. But when we are talking that particular word like conscious, there is a quite thinking that is happening behind that particular mind, and then you arrive
Mhm.
at taking that particular decision. So what's the whole structure of making that particular conscious decision does really mean to you?
It's a Yeah, I mean, we make hundreds of decisions every day, right?
Yeah,
We're making decisions
absolutely.
about everything
Number
all
of
the time.
decisions.
But I think in business, there's a lot of time spent doing stuff that either isn't productive or isn't actually going to get you where to want you want to go, or is procrastination, or is done out of fear of doing the big things, or there's lots of reasons why we're, I don't know, we find ourselves spending time on Canva creating graphics, that kind of thing. um, but actually, if you become aware of the fact that your behaviors are like this, and some of your decisions are based on, kind of the wrong reasons, then actually it makes it easier to make the decisions that matter. So everything I say to my clients, everything that you're doing, just think, is this getting me to where I want to go?
Yeah,
And the answer is yes or no. I mean, we can all do that with everything that we're doing during the day.
everything,
And sometimes it's
everything.
no, but actually it's quite kind of comforting. So fine. Sometimes it's no, and really, it's a waste of time. And so that then becomes a conscious business decision.
I
And
totally agree to that.
it makes the difference between being a business owner and having a business,
Yeah.
right? Having a business, fine, anyone can have a business, but being a business owner and thinking like a business owner, completely different,
Completely different, and it's a very altogether a different game. You need to have that thick skin to face
isn't it?
all the
Just,
situations. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
But
for
then
sure.
definitely we are talking about making those decisions, and I have seen that people have been following those vision statements. They have been making boards for them, and I feel
Mhm.
that they are poor at motivating people into the business, because that is not how business may work. So do you agree to that particular statement, that vision statements are poor at motivating people? And do you have a kind of a vision statement for your business as well? If you have, how do you realign your strategy? Like if it doesn't reach to that particular goal, what's your approach towards that?
It's a really interesting question, that actually. And I'm thinking about it. And I mean, I certainly don't have an official mission statement written down. Um, because so often, certainly in bigger companies, they have these and it doesn't mean anything, right? It's just a plaque on the wall or something. But yeah, I mean, how I would translate it into the business, my own business and the businesses I work with, which is very, very small businesses, right? Generally speaking, one person, maybe up to five, but
Yeah,
very small
yeah, yeah,
businesses, is just have in your mind, does this make me happy? What do I actually want to achieve? And what do I want to help people achieve? And it's kind of that simple mantra
yeah.
that motivates and keeps you on track. Because if you get approached to do some work and it doesn't make you happy, it doesn't get you to where you want to be, and it doesn't help people in the way that lights you up, then you say no to it. So that again, it becomes a conscious business
Yeah.
decision. But without this kind of yeah, mission statement, it's probably not an expression that I would use, but you're absolutely right that that's what it is. Then yeah, without having that like ingrained in your mind, it is really hard to know why you're doing stuff, and that's when you end up just chasing the money.
Absolutely. And we already have that particular vision or mission in our mind once we are starting that business. We know like what we have to achieve from that particular business, how we are going to help society at large. Because see, when we
Mm-hmm.
are talking about the business, as you said, like it could be one person, you have been managing five people out there. It's still a business. Like it is helping people
Mm-hmm.
to have that particular vision. Like they are riding along with you. They know like they have to grow with you so that whatever you are investing, they'll get a reward accordingly, so that it becomes quite interesting, so that the interest are vested into the business. But we may have the vision statement, we may have the mission, but it's all about like at what pace we are sticking to and how we are growing ahead.
Mm-hmm.
But when we are talking about the product fit into the market, I feel that it is very valuable skill. Whatever you are bringing out to the market, be it the product or be it the service, I feel that it takes a lot of courage to build that particular product or the service in first place. So, according to you, how do you decide that this would be a market fit or like this will be running into the market? And then comes the talk about the marketing and the sales thing. But firstly, you need that product into the place. So, what's your idea or the logic behind once you're working onto that particular part of product or the service?
I mean, I work with service-based businesses,
Yeah.
so it's always a service. I'm less good on products. So there's an element of gut feel about it. you know, if you there has to be, really, because the thing about offering a service is you start with one idea, and then the more people that you help, that actually helps shape what it is. So I mean, what I offered when I first started my business in 2011 isn't the same as now.
Yeah.
Elements are, but it just isn't, because you change, your client base may change, the world changes, right? Technology changes, all these things. So there's got to be an element of adaptation there. But the thing to do is to start talking to people, is to start delivering what you kind of think is right, and then change. If you're always sitting planning and thinking, oh, this would be good, and I'll do it in these 5 modules, and we'll work on this process, and then turns out it's not what people want at all, you haven't got a business. You're really struggling. So you've got to have just an inkling of an idea, and then go out and start doing it and adapt it. I mean, I wouldn't use the expression winging it, but there is an element there has to be an element of that kind of adaptability, in order for
Right.
you to find out what you're doing, right? And find out what people want.
Right.
But that's the
That's
beauty of a service-based
yeah.
business, is that you can do that. Yeah. It's very different
Right.
with products, because if you decide there's this widget is needed and you order 100,000, and it turns out, no, they wanted the red one, not the blue one, then yeah, that's a really different scenario.
The marginal utility with respect to the products is always a kind of like it's very high at start and then it starts diminishing out there. So that is something that usually happens with the product, but with the service it is very constant. Like people will be seeking for your
Mm-hmm.
service if it is good. But if you're talking about like at what particular interval of time we should be reviewing our service base as well, because as you said, the market is changing, the people are changing.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have been launching my product, like if I'm going to launch it in the month of April, so at what particular time I should be reviewing the progress of that particular service, like whether it is being rewarding or it is not, what kind of tweaks that I have to make. So what's your approach towards that as well?
I mean, it's multifaceted, that, because if you launch, say you launch something in April and you get 200 people sign up and everybody's happy and you're happy, then that's just, you crack on, you carry on for years if you want to. But there are obviously some metrics to review as well. I mean, it would be your conversion rate, it would be the engagement rate on your social media when you're talking about the topic, and overall, and success rate within the program or service that you're offering. But it's more about, right, is this matching up with my mission statement? Is
Yeah.
this making me happy, getting them results, and making my life the life that I want? And that's an almost daily review, and it's different. It's much more emotional than looking at the tracking metrics that are
Yeah.
available over the place, because you could have a hugely successful program or service, but it doesn't make you happy. So you close it and do something else, or tweak it or change it. So it's a constant, but also there's a measure. I mean, it's quite unlikely that anything will be a huge success overnight. I would love it if that was
Hmm.
different, but wouldn't we all? But it's quite unlikely for that to happen. So there is a lot of trial and error in what we all put out there. But you get to know over time what works and
Right.
what doesn't, and what you like and what you don't. But you can't, like, launch something one week and launch something the next week and launch something the following week, because your audience will be so confused about what it is that you're doing that they won't buy from you. You will be confused about what you're doing. You'll be exhausted from all of
Right.
that. So you've got to have a certain level of stickability, which is
Yeah.
hard for us entrepreneurs because we have a million ideas and want to implement them all. But yeah, I mean, if you can stick to something for a year, that's, that gives you a proper kind of measure of stuff, and that's hard for me. A year feels like a lifetime, so I speak to myself when I say this, but it's a good kind of, it's a proper kind of test of stuff.
Yeah. Libby, I know like you have been speaking from experience, so I'm able to relate with each and every word. And it's very true, like with respect to the business, with respect to the kind of life cycle that we have to see, it's never ending and it's always evolving and changing.
Mm-hmm.
So we just have to adapt to that particular part. And when we are into business, it's all about the people who we are working with. We have to build
Mm-hmm.
a team so that we can delegate our kind of a thing work as well, so that we can focus on our expertise. But these days it's more about like hiring, like people are on hiring spree as well,
Mm-hmm.
like they want to just fill the position. So what's your perspective of shifting from the perspective of hiring to talent acquisition? Because hiring is a very common word, like it feels like just I'm filling up the place, but when I'm looking at the talent acquisition, it just gives me a different perspective. I'm just making sure that I'm having the right person for the right role. So when you're building your team, like what are the thoughts that you have so that it will help people to know like what they care they should be taking into consideration?
It's moved on enormously since I first started the business. I mean, then really you did just employ people directly. That was kind of the norm, but nowadays that's more and more rare, I think, particularly in the kind of solopreneur space. We everybody works from home now. That's absolutely perfectly normal post COVID, and a lot of stuff is done online. So that's kind of shifted. And the way that people build their teams now is by taking on consultants. I do that in inverted
Yeah.
commas, experts for particular things. So, to have a VA who helps you with admin or specific kind of tech things, to have a coach, right? That's kind of a really important part of the
Yeah.
team, to have a coach. And I say that as someone who obviously is a coach. You all need to work with me, of course, but someone who has I have my own coaches and always have done. So I believe in kind of investing like that. So really the thing there about building your team is about, right, what can I give to somebody else to do that will take it off my plate, and they will be better at it than me,
Hmm.
and the money that I invest in them, what will that free me up to then go and earn? you know
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a really good way of looking at it, because people often think, oh, I haven't got £500 a month to, that's a real leap to spend that money on a VA, for example. But what will you spending that money allow you to do? And you can probably earn 10 times that
Yeah.
from what they do. So it's a mindset shift about
Yeah.
taking on kind of experts in their field.
Great perspective. And again, when we are earning, we just have to distribute that particular profits to the team members as well, so that it grows and we get much easier at that particular job.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can focus on our core expertise as well, because there is a lot
Yeah.
to do, as you said. Like if we are doing a work that is not demanded from us, like creating a graphic, it usually happens with the podcaster community as well, or the fraternity. They keep doing a lot of things by their own. So that is something that we have to take into consideration, that build a team, know that there are people available out there who can just take up the load that you have been
Yeah.
taking. And that's a great perspective. Now, as you said, like we have been sticking to the business, like you are into the service industry, you have been catering to that particular niche. So what's your opinion about expanding beyond your niche market? Because unless and until we are not diversifying ourselves, we won't be opening the new sources of income stream. So, how do you see to that particular thing?
Say that question again. I'm sorry.
Like
So expanding out of our area
your
of
niche market,
expertise.
yeah. So, if you are catering to certain niche, if you want to expand yourself or
Right. Okay.
diversify your
How would you?
business, yeah,
Sorry. Right. Okay. Well, you don't have to. That's the simple answer to that. Um, if you say you want to, why do you want to? You know, because you're never going to run out of people. None of us is ever going to run out of people. The world's a very big place, and no, even if we work in a micro niche, there's still more than enough people to go round. So, why would you want to? What's the motivation to expand outside of your niche? And how would that impact on everything that you've been doing thus far? They're the kind of questions that I would ask. And if you did, if there was kind of valid reason for all of that, that you thought it was a bigger audience or a different audience, or you wanted to pivot your business completely, then that's obviously kind of a different thing. You're essentially starting a new business if you're moving into a completely different field, which is cool because you'll be able to take the knowledge that you've had building the business thus far. But yeah, you don't necessarily. I don't know. I mean, I would never want to. I've never. That's a really interesting question, because I'm people pivot a lot.
yeah, a lot.
They do, but to pivot completely, it is really just starting a new business, and in which case it's a different conversation.
Yeah, definitely. And
Mm,
again, like I loved your perspective as well, because then you need to have that clear why you
mm,
have to go beyond your
mm,
niche. Because like niche is something that you'll be able to stick to. You don't have to think a lot about it.
mhm.
Your expertise, then why to venture out of that? If you have that clear why, I feel that then you can just think about it, see how if it works or not. So that is
Yeah.
something like innovative perspective that we have derived from this particular conversation. And again, it does matter, the culture matters with respect to the business we are into, and it's constantly evolving. So when we talk about the culture and the strategy, so how to evolve that particular strategy while keeping the culture constant, because it's very important. So for example, I'm into a family business, my father has set a kind of a culture or the ethics or the principles into the business. I still wish that I'll be carrying that particular legacy, because it does really matter. People know from the kind of legacy that we carry or the goodwill we have.
Mhm.
So we don't want to disturb that particular culture, but we have to evolve that particular strategy. So what would be your take onto that? And if it happens, like when you're deriving that particular new strategy, what kind of metrics you will be tracking?
Yeah, I mean, it's not really my area of expertise, that, to be honest,
Okay.
because culture is more in kind of bigger corporate companies who I don't work with. I don't choose to work with that with
Okay.
people. It's not my wheelhouse, and the place that makes me happy and I get the results is to work with people who work on their own. The solopreneurs, the tiny businesses, and in which case the culture is, it comes back to the mission statement. It's your beliefs, and it's the way you it's the way you treat your suppliers. It's the way that you work with, you collaborate with
Yeah.
other people in the business. But in terms of kind of an organizational culture, yeah, not my bag. There's other
What if
people who are far better at that than me. Yeah.
you'll be growing your business and will be answering that particular thing then after? It will happen, Libby. I'm pretty
No, I don't
sure.
want it to. That's the thing. I don't want. I had staff, and I didn't want that, and I don't want that. I don't want
Is
to.
there any specific
I've
reason,
no.
or
Huh?
is there any specific reason for that?
Yeah, I don't want to be a manager. I don't want to. I like the freedom of being on my own and just being able to outsource bits to people. And it doesn't put a limit on what I can earn, but having the responsibility of an office and of staff, which I had before, is just not the way I want to work at all.
Right.
And most of my clients they're the same. We're not interested in growing £1 million empires with whole teams. It just isn't what motivates us at all. And it's certainly not about a lack of ambition. It's that isn't what's going to make us
Yeah. Yeah.
happy. We know that. We left that world, you
Right.
know? Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all about being content with what you are doing and how you're doing. That is
Yeah,
something
well,
that
loving what you're
always,
doing. Not
yeah,
It's not about contentment, but loving, yeah, loving what you're doing and loving the choices you're making and knowing that you can earn what you want to earn, but just on your
absolutely.
own at home in your tracksuit, your joggers. It's like that. There's a real freedom and a real joy in that. And growth in business is not necessarily about getting more kind of attributes like an office and staff
Yeah.
and all that.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
isn't. It's far deeper than that.
Enough of motivation for the people out there who will be thinking, like, who will be having this dilemma that whether I should be opting for a organizational culture, or like I'm a good kind of a one man person, or the women or man to lead that particular organization. So you did talk about the competition thing earlier. So what's your take on to that particular thing? Because competition does exist. A coach like you might come into a picture, or a person like me, if I'm a podcaster, someone would be doing much better than me, or like a person who is just starting out will be flourishing ahead of me as well. So it may happen, and with business it always happens. So how you have guided your clients, or what's your take on competition when it arises?
I'm not really a big believer in competition, because we're all so different, and you
Yeah.
only know what people talk about on Instagram. So you don't know if it's true or not anyway. There's definitely that's to do, when people talk about their earnings and stuff, and it's like, yeah, but are you talking about turnover, or are you talking about profit? There needs to be kind of more transparency around that if people are trying to impress you with some numbers. And it absolutely is just about whether you're happy or not. It doesn't matter there's always going to be people achieving more than any of us, and there's always going to be people who are struggling to getting going. That's always going to be the case. But who cares? It doesn't matter if you are the happiest. You're in control of it, right? So if you're the happiest that you can be, or you're on the path to being the happiest you can be,
Yeah.
and if you know your plan for earning what you want to earn and more, but if you know your path for that, and your family is happy, and all of this, that just matters. That's what matters. And it doesn't matter if someone else is earning twice or three times as much as you. It just doesn't matter, because you're not comparing. Nothing is the same, because nobody will ever offer exactly the same service as you. There's loads of business coaches, right? But nobody does it in exactly the same way as I do. So I can't compare myself with anyone else. I can
Right.
be motivated and influenced by other people, but I'm not them, and they're not
Yeah.
me. So there's things that I can do better, there's things they can do better. And a lot of that comparisonitis kind of just comes from, yeah, I say the money that people talk about what they're earning. But even that is just, it's all relative. You don't know the truth about it. So
Yeah.
it doesn't, collaborate with people. Don't think of them competitors. Do a project together or something. It's much more powerful. There's much more powerful, and there's much more power in that. And that's how we'll change the world, not by worrying about what so and so over there's doing.
Absolutely. And again, when we think about the business, there's a kind of a profit element that we always have to
Mm-hmm.
maximize. Okay. So that is something that when you talk about like making that particular thing easy, so what's your approach towards maximizing that particular profit? And the other day I was listening to one of this particular podcast, and there was a statement made out there, and it was like, don't listen to the people who are poorer than you. So there is the approach of like volatility versus risk. They are not able to understand that, and that is the reason they are not making enough money or maximizing the profit. So
Mm.
what's your take?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I mean, it doesn't mean that somebody who's not earning as much as you doesn't mean that they don't have something
Yeah,
valuable to say.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it just
right.
not everything revolves around money at all. We all need to earn money, right? And we all have monetary goals, but not everything needs to. But that would be like me saying, that I couldn't offer any value to someone who has £1 million turnover because I don't. And it's like, yeah, sure, I can. I'll be able to help them with some things, streamlining or efficiency, or I'm sure I'll be able to add some value. But don't listen to people who are poorer than you. It's like, well, that cuts out cuts so much. Yeah, it doesn't. Or it'd be like saying, because you earn more than the mechanic, don't listen to what the mechanic says about your car. And it's like, that's literally what they're trained to do. So I don't know. I don't think that doesn't kind of hold any weight with me. I think a lot of people have a lot of very valuable things to say, and where they are on the financial ladder doesn't necessarily make any difference to that.
Glad that you decoded this for us, because it's very important to understand the perspective. It sounds very cool, like it's quite motivating, it's quite like bashing statement, but we just have to
Yes,
understand the crux of it. How
it's a
does it
bit.
feel? Yeah,
I think
just
it's, oh, I'm better than you. It
yeah,
doesn't.
yeah,
It doesn't feel very supportive
support. Yeah,
of people, and it
yeah,
seems a bit sort of well, I'm only going to listen to people who are bigger and better. And it just depends on the context, right?
right,
I'm not
right,
saying
right. Yeah.
there's all leaders in our industry that we follow and we admire and we respect and all of that. Absolutely. But it doesn't mean that somebody can't say something that you think, that's what I needed to hear today. Yeah. It's a very kind of narrow minded, financially focused view
Yeah,
of life, which is, I think it needs to be more holistic than that.
absolutely. And when we are talking about the business, it's more inclusive. So we just have to include each and every person out there. They might be
Mhm.
having different view. We might be having. We just need to find that particular balance. And Libby, right now we see that you consider yourself as the queen of easy business. So that is something that you have branded as yourself. Like,
Mm.
but are there any risk involved in rebranding? Year later, you wish to rebrand yourself. How would you do that, and what kind of a rebranding or branding works? Because people just like, there have been this noise or the common notion that has been surrounding over internet that you need this kind of a profile or all that particular stuff. You just have to make that particular personal brand, so you just need to rebrand yourself. So what's your take onto that particular aspect as
I mean, you're talking to someone who's rebranded themselves about 10 times through the
well?
13 years I've been in business. So, I mean, when I first started the business, I I had a brand name. My business was called Zest, and I always, even from day one, I spoke about we. It wasn't I, it was we,
we
because I thought that to make a successful business, you had to have a team and all of this stuff, right? And then I made that shift to I and to using my own name probably 5 years into the business, something like that. And so that was a massive, I mean, that was a mega rebrand, right? That was huge. And what I've been known as, or my specialism, has kind of been tweaked over the years. So the Queen of Easy Business, I guess I've been kind of using that for a couple of years now. And the reason I like it is because I really believe in making life easier. I'm not saying that business is easy, right? I'm never going to say that. But there are some really clever things that you can do and knowledge that you can gain to make it easier. And that's what I'm passionate about. So it sits well. But will I still be, well, will I still be doing this at all in 10 years? Who knows? But will I still will that still be my focus? I don't know, because it depends on how the world's changed, how I've changed, how my client base has changed, and all of that. But for, a rebrand, really, I mean, I've been through, I have different logos and stuff, which is like the visual rebrand. But yeah, I did change everything about the business, and we were a really strong brand to start with. I did change all of that, and you've just got to go with your heart and see what fits. But having a sort of, Queen of Easy Business, not my business name. It's kind of like a subtitle, if you
Yeah.
like. So, whilst people do recognise that, if I stopped using it, I don't think anyone would notice, because my name is, my name is what matters, is my brand,
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah,
that's the kind of a brand. People know you from your name and the work that you have been
sure.
putting into, and that is something that we have to understand. This thing really came to my mind from a particular statement made by the former chairman of the luxury goods company LVMH, Pauline Brown. He was the chairman. He focused on like people have to develop that aesthetic intelligence. That is the AI he has talked about. So that is something that it came from out there. So it's more about like it will help people to stand different from their competitors, so that it will elicit true kind of a delight. So that is something that we have to focus on. But yeah, I could understand from your perspective like how you have branded yourself and in what way you are moving ahead. So
Mm.
that is something which is very interesting. And when we talk about the business, we all need the tools to run that particular business. So
Hmm.
are there any kind of a business tools you can't live without it, and what kind of a benefits you have derived from that?
Oh, anything that makes stuff easier, of course. But I mean, I don't think in this day and age that you can run a successful one person, two people service based business without email marketing software. You
Yeah.
know, without something like Zoom, so you can have your meeting. You need to pay for that. Yes, you can get a free version, but you don't want all your meetings to be limited to 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Without tools like Calendly,
Yeah.
scheduling
Yeah.
calendar and appointment scheduling tools, they all make things easier. There are, I'm just looking through all the tabs that I've got open. Accounting
For sure.
software. Yeah, there's 300 of them. Things like accounting software are really useful. Scheduling tools for your social media. They all have a small cost to them, or the majority have a small cost to them. But the time that they will save, I don't think you can. I mean, of course you can. You can run a business without a website, right? Of course you can. But in order to be able to kind of make it easier and to give some sort of scalability to the business, then any kind of automation tool like that is really absolutely invaluable. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
basics.
And
They're the
yeah, that's the
basics.
basic. And again, if we talk about marketing ourselves, it's more about being available on social media platforms as well.
Mhm.
That is how we met. We had this initial
Yeah,
conversation, and that is,
on Threads.
yeah, on
I
threads.
know, very exciting. I love Threads though. I really
And
like it.
you just feel connected with the people. You know,
I
this
know.
is the right person. I just have to talk with this particular person. I'll be having a great time, great insights. That is something I love the most about the people I talk with,
Yeah.
because they are very much into their own thing. They know like how to get things done, and that is something that makes me go at it. So it's really a
Mm.
great thing. And if you're talking about the last part of the thing of this particular episode, I feel that we have to be innovative in our approach with respect to leading our business. So there comes a kind of a design thinking into my mind, because it is a part of the business innovation process. So you'll be innovating your processes as well. Like this is something that I have to achieve in next 6 months, or I'll be looking at
Mhm.
to go at it certain pace. So I feel that design leads to innovation, and innovation demands design. So what's your kind of a structure to that particular thing?
I mean, I am innovation led first and
Oh,
foremost.
great.
Yeah, because of the ideas. There's so many ideas, and it's, oh, I could do this differently, and then I work out how afterwards. So I'm innovation first and design second, and I think that just trying to think through my clients, I would say that most of them they actually are the same. We have the ideas and then work out how to implement it, and that's the kind of stuff that I help clients with, right? Talking through what it actually means. But I guess the vision, so maybe innovation, so switch that out for vision. That's what kind of matters. So, right, what do I really want to help people with? Okay, how can I do that? And then how does that actually work is like the back end stuff, and that's often the bit that gets outsourced, the design side of things. But yeah, innovation is really, really important. Changing the world matters, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It
And
does.
like
Yeah.
you might have seen the kind of pace it has got with respect to the change. It's quite faster than
Oh man,
it
yeah.
was earlier, because earlier people used to adapt. They used to get comfortable with the products or the services.
Yeah.
Right now, it's very different scenario, and that is something that we all have to take into consideration. And Libby, what's your take on networking? Like, what would be your guide of networking so that people who are into the business, if they want to make more and more business out there, I feel that networking is important.
Yeah.
The way we have networked with each other, it is part of our networking, like the pattern that we are following. So, what would be your approach? What kind of ways you follow?
Well, I would say that networking is probably the single most important thing you can do in a business. And it comes in lots of guises, right? So, I mean, when I first started social media, I mean, I used to teach social media. So, social media was a hugely important thing. And Twitter back then in 2013, 2011, sorry, was epic for meeting people, right? I
Amazing.
wouldn't have got the start that I got in my business if it wasn't for some of the conversations I had on Twitter. It was hugely, hugely important. Facebook kind of for personal stuff, but less so. But even the personal relationships that you make are as important as the business connections, because if you don't like someone and they don't like you, you're not going to work together, you're not going to collaborate together, you're not going to be cheerleaders of each other, all the things that we need in a business. But I mean, I started off, so I did a lot of stuff on Twitter and LinkedIn. But I also have always been quite a prolific in-person networker. So I've been to tons of thousands of
Oh,
in-person networking meetings. And even if you don't get clients from them, which you often don't, right? But you build up this kind of community and this support network, which is just so useful, so essential when you are working on your own, which a lot of people in business do. But it's changed, the landscape's changed since COVID, in that there's so much more availability for online stuff. That community is seen as more important as well. But yeah, and social media as a whole, like I say, we met on social media, we met on
yeah.
Threads. That's just networking. It's just networking, except you're doing it on your phone, and it's shorter and snappier and all of that. So the most important thing you can do in business, to start a business, to sustain a business, and to grow a business, is to have conversations with people. And if you do that in a formal networking, fine. If you do that in a little chat on Threads and then end up on a podcast, great. It's all really, really important. And it is, yeah. If you do that kind of legwork, that's what will make the biggest difference.
Absolutely. It's just a matter of like you have to show up wherever
Yeah,
possible and in whatever way possible. You just have to
yeah,
show up, and that is something that will lead to a kind of business that you have to roll out. And it's a matter of the people. Like the more you connect, the better ideas you get,
yeah.
the better guidance you get, and people are always helpful, so that they'll be guiding you onto that particular
Yeah.
path.
and
And
and the
Libby,
more opportunity, the more opportunities, the more conversations you have, then someone might say, oh, maybe we could. And you think, yeah, and it leads to a whole kind of new thing that you hadn't thought about, and you get recommended because people get to know you and like you, and then they mention you to someone else. So yeah, it's the best. Yeah, it's the best possible thing you can do in a business.
absolutely. And as a business owner, we have very less expectations. But once we get into that particular groove, it's more about like how it'll be helpful for each of us, so that
Hmm.
it builds that kind of a synergy effect. You help me, I'll be helping someone, and the
Yeah,
chain gets created. That will really help the business, the people into the business. And Libby, we were talking on Glitters of Life podcast. So when we talk about glitters of life, what is that particular thought comes to your mind? And if you have to give any one advice to the people out here who are into the business or the content creation or whatever you feel like from your past experience, what would be that?
I really like the title "Glitters of Life." Really, it's like to me, it's like how I interpret that is it's kind of the little moments of happiness. It's not the big thing, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
the little moments of joy, of dopamine hits, of fun, of all of that. And it, as one-off things, they are tiny, but they add up to make life amazing. And so I really,
absolutely.
yeah, I really, really like that title. And I think it's a really good message to kind of look at in your business and in your life, right, as a
Yeah.
as a whole, but certainly in your business, because if you're not recognizing these little glitters that are sprinkled through, you're missing out on so much joy and happiness, and comfort. So you have to take a step back and just think, oh, that was really great, and like bank it, bank it as a thing. And it doesn't matter if it's just the fact that you've got your inbox down to, I don't know, 15 emails or whatever it is, but it's like that's still that's, I'm just looking at mine, it's up to 37 now, but that, even that is something that can kind of add to this. So yeah, it's, if you think of glitter, right, it's these tiny microscopic things, but together it's sparkly and it's shiny and
Yeah.
it's fun
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
and yeah, so it's absolutely the way that we should look at what we achieve and how our business is for this. And if you haven't got any glitters, then there's work that needs to be done.
Absolutely. And it says like be obsessively grateful. So that is something that you have to remember.
Yeah,
It's more about that. And I loved your approach. Thanks for sharing that element. And I'll be having that compliment for you, the kind of pitch and tempo that you have got, the kind of little tweaks that you make with respect to the speaking element.
yeah.
That really makes it special. So it has been a very honor to speak with you on to this particular topic of life in business. It is something that we all are willing to venture into, and to make it easier, your guidance was a kind of a very thoughtful one. So again, thank you so much, and I wish
Thank
you
you.
very best for the future endeavors. And if anyone wants to connect with Libby, I'll be mentioning her social and the website links in the episode description. You can just reach out to her and have that fun conversation. Thank you so much. Stay happy, stay healthy. Bye bye, take care.